Welcome back, everybody, to The Deep Dive.
Always a pleasure.
Today, we're diving into the world of making money on Instagram.
Oh, yeah. This should be interesting.
We got a ton of requests to break down this presentation by Taijaun Reshard.
Right. Taijaun Reshard.
He's this entrepreneur who claims to have basically cracked the code.
Cracked the code to Instagram riches.
Yeah, so he's got this whole system.
A system.
And we're going to unpack it all for you.
Let's get into it.
See what's worth trying, what's a little sus.
For sure. There's definitely some hype around this guy.
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll separate the clever from the questionable.
Right.
And help you figure out what to pay attention to.
Perfect. So Taijaun's whole approach
Yeah.
is built around something he calls Instagram theme pages.
Okay.
What exactly are we talking about here?
So important to know right off the bat, this is not about becoming like a personal influencer,
Okay.
like a lifestyle guru or a fashionista or something.
Right.
Theme pages are about curating content around a very specific niche. Think like motivational quotes, finance tips, travel destinations, anything really.
So instead of being John Smith travel blogger,
Right.
it's amazing views of the world.
Exactly. And Taijaun believes that by picking a narrow niche, you attract a way more engaged audience.
Okay, I can see that.
Passionate at that specific thing.
Right.
Now, this is where things get interesting.
Okay.
He's a big believer in quantity and consistency.
Okay.
Like, he recommends posting, like, at least 3 to 5 times a day.
Wow, that's a ton of content.
It is.
How do you even make that much stuff?
He outsources it.
Oh, interesting.
Uses platforms like Fiverr and Upwork.
Yeah.
Find affordable freelancers to actually create the content for him.
Wow, so he's not even making it himself.
Nope. He showed examples in the presentation, like getting over 100 custom posts for pretty cheap.
Okay, but if you're paying like rock bottom prices, are you really getting good content?
It's a trade-off for sure, you know, sacrificing some quality for quantity. But Taijaun's argument is that for these themed pages, the focus is really just consistency and going viral.
Okay.
You're flooding the platform with content, basically hoping something catches on.
Right, so let's say you've got this theme page.
Yeah.
It's pumping out content.
Mm-hmm.
How do you actually make money from it?
So Taijaun shared a bunch of different monetization methods.
Yeah?
Some of them are pretty wild.
Okay.
One of the biggest money makers, he says, is selling shout-outs and promos.
Hold on.
Yeah.
People are paying to be featured on these random theme pages.
Apparently so. Businesses are always looking for ways to reach their target audience.
Sure.
And these theme pages can offer that a very engaged following in a very specific niche.
Right.
Taijaun showed examples of pages charging thousands of dollars for a single post.
Thousands for a shout out.
Yeah, are we talking like Kim Kardashian level following here?
Right.
Not even close. He showed a screenshot of his own DMs with an account offering him $7,500 for a promo post.
$7,500.
And his page didn't even have 500,000 followers.
Wow. Okay, so there's definitely money to be made here.
It seems like it.
But is it sustainable? How many businesses are out there willing to shell out that kind of cash just for a shout out?
Right. It definitely raises questions about how common this actually is.
Yeah.
But his argument is that as more and more businesses are moving their advertising budget to social media,
Okay.
these niche pages become pretty valuable tools.
So instead of buying like a billboard or a TV commercial, they're paying for shout outs on these Instagram pages.
It's all about reaching the right people.
Right.
And often these theme pages actually have a way more targeted and engaged audience than traditional media.
That's true.
Yeah.
But the whole thing still feels a little too good to be true.
It does, right?
A little too easy.
Yeah.
And it brings us to another part of Taijaun's strategy that's a little eyebrow-raising.
Oh, yeah?
He called it the ethically steal method.
Yeah, ethically steal. That sounds a little...
that sounds like an oxymoron.
like a contradiction.
Yeah, what's he talking about?
So he basically advocates for, like, borrowing content from successful competitors.
Okay.
Find the posts that are already going viral in your niche and just replicate them on your own page.
Isn't that just plagiarism?
That's where the ethically part gets kind of murky.
Right.
He argues that as long as you give credit to the original creator in the caption, it's a win-win.
Oh, come on.
Driving traffic to both accounts.
I mean, I get the logic, but it still feels wrong.
Definitely raises questions about originality and, like, copyright.
Yeah.
Probably not something you want to build your whole strategy on.
I'd be worried about getting sued.
Right.
But even besides the legal stuff, it just feels kind of uninspired.
Sure.
Like, where's the creativity in just copying everyone else?
Yeah, it's a valid point. But, Taijaun's argument is that on Instagram, speed and virality are everything. Originality is less important.
Okay.
So he thinks by leveraging existing trends and formats,
Right.
you can get traction quickly and build that audience.
Okay, so let's assume you built up a decent following. Combination of ethically questionable content and lots of outsourcing.
Right.
Are shoutouts the only way to monetize these theme pages?
Oh, no, he's got a whole bunch of ways.
Really?
Another big one he talks about is selling products directly through your page.
Products? Like, what kind of products are we talking about here?
Both digital and physical.
Okay.
He actually pulled up his dashboard.
Oh, wow.
Showing that one of his pages made over $100,000 in 50 days.
Get out of here.
Selling a digital product.
100 grand in 50 days. From a themed Instagram page. Okay, I'm listening.
It's important to be cautious about those numbers.
Right.
Dashboards can be manipulated. There's no way to independently verify that.
Sure.
But even if it's exaggerated a little, it's clear there's potential there.
Yeah, for sure. So what kind of digital products are we talking about?
Things like ebooks, online courses, templates, presets.
Right.
Anything you can deliver digitally, basically.
Right.
The beauty is you create it once and you can sell it forever.
No overhead.
Minimal overhead.
I'm starting to see why this whole theme page thing is appealing.
Right.
It's like you create your own little online shop.
Totally.
But you don't have to deal with inventory or shipping or any of that.
Exactly. And it's not just limited to your own products either.
Okay.
Taijaun also talked about affiliate marketing as a way to make money.
Affiliate marketing, that's where you get a commission for promoting other people's products, right?
Great. You find products that fit your audience, share them with your followers, earn a percentage of any sale that comes through your link.
So like those link in bio things you see everywhere.
Exactly. It's a way to monetize your page without even having to make your own products.
Okay, let's go back to those earnings claims for a second. He's making some pretty bold statements about the kind of money you can make with this.
Yeah. And he knows people are skeptical.
Right.
It's like, show me the proof.
Right.
Share screen recordings of his earnings, even like a news article about himself.
Yeah. So he's got some evidence. But is it enough? How do we know he's the real deal or just a really good salesman?
That's where critical thinking comes in.
Right.
Got to analyze the claims and look for any red flags. Like that $100,000 in 50 days thing, it's impressive, but can we verify it?
Yeah, and are those shout-out prices realistic? Could a page with a small following really command that kind of cash?
Right. These are all questions worth asking.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that there are industry benchmarks and analytical tools we can use to assess those claims.
So it's not about just taking Taijaun's word for it.
Right.
It's about doing your own research.
Right.
And that's what this deep dive is all about, giving you the tools to make informed decisions. Now, before we move on, there's one part of his story I want to touch on. He's got a pretty compelling personal narrative, doesn't he?
Yeah, a classic rags to riches story.
He talks about failing out of college, working minimum wage jobs,
feeling like a failure.
And then thanks to Instagram, he's buying his dream car, 3-story house, even helped his twin sister with her education.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of it all.
It is, but it's important to remember that stories like this are often very carefully crafted.
Right.
To inspire and motivate.
So we need to maintain that healthy skepticism.
Right.
In the next part of this deep dive, we'll go deeper into the realities of building a successful Instagram business.
Absolutely.
The challenges, the pitfalls.
All the things Taijaun might not be telling you.
Stay tuned.
It's fascinating to think about where Taijaun's approach fits within the whole world of digital entrepreneurship.
Right. Yeah.
It's a different beast altogether.
How so?
Well, in one corner, you've got the rise of the individual creator, people building their personal brand, showcasing their expertise.
Right.
Essentially monetizing their passions.
So your classic influencer model.
Right. Exactly. But Taijaun's model is kind of the opposite of that. It's less about personality and more about leveraging systems and automation.
Interesting.
It's less about you and more about the system.
So it's more like building a business as opposed to becoming a personality.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where it gets really interesting.
Right.
It raises questions about the future of content creation itself.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Could this be the new wave? Right. Are we moving away from individual influencers and toward these more faceless, niche-focused pages?
It's a good question.
It is. It's tough to say for sure.
Right.
But it's definitely a trend to watch.
Yeah, especially as platforms like Instagram keep changing.
Oh, for sure.
It makes you wonder how, algorithmic changes could impact this kind of strategy.
Absolutely.
What happens if Instagram suddenly decides to prioritize original content over everything else?
Right, because remember, his whole model hinges on repurposing existing content.
So it might not be the most future-proof strategy.
Well, it definitely emphasizes the importance of being adaptable.
Right.
Things change constantly online. Entrepreneurs need to be able to pivot.
Right.
Adjust their approach.
Speaking of adapting, let's go back to those shout-out prices for a second.
Okay.
I'm still stuck on those.
What's interesting is how he frames it as a win-win for both sides.
He does, doesn't he? It's like businesses are begging to give him money.
Right. And from their perspective, it kind of makes sense.
Okay.
They're getting access to a very specific audience.
Right.
Potentially reaching millions of people with a single post.
So it's super efficient advertising.
Exactly. It cuts through all the noise of traditional advertising.
Right.
And goes straight to the people who are most likely to be interested.
Yeah, I can see that.
But it also brings up some ethical stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Are these theme pages being transparent about the fact that they're getting paid for these shout-outs?
Yeah, that's a good point.
If you're scrolling through your feed and you see a post that looks like a genuine recommendation, but it's actually a paid ad, that's deceptive.
Right. It feels misleading.
Yeah. And it makes you question the authenticity of the content, too.
Right. If a page is constantly pushing products, it loses its credibility.
Exactly. The focus shifts from providing value to just making money.
So is it all just a big marketing ploy?
I wouldn't say that, but I think it's important to be aware of the motivations behind the content we see online.
Be critical consumers.
Exactly.
Okay, fair enough. But let's move on to something a little more tangible.
Sure.
He also talked about selling products directly.
He did.
Showed his dashboard, claiming he made over $100,000 in 50 days.
Yeah, this actually ties into a bigger trend we're seeing with digital products.
What do you mean?
Well, in the past, if you wanted to sell something, you had to make a physical product.
Right.
Deal with manufacturing, shipping, all that.
Tons of overhead.
Exactly. But with digital products, that overhead basically disappears.
Okay.
You make the product once and you can sell it 1,000,000 times.
So ebooks, online courses, templates, that sort of thing.
Exactly. And the best part is you can use platforms like Instagram to reach a global audience.
That's pretty powerful.
It is, and it's a big reason why Taijaun's so excited about this model.
He sees it as a way to build an audience and then sell them something.
That's the idea, and it's not limited to just digital products either.
Okay.
Remember, he also talked about affiliate marketing,
right,
which is basically getting a cut for promoting other people's stuff.
So instead of creating your own product, you find existing products that fit your niche. And recommend them to your followers.
Exactly. And it can be really profitable, especially with a large and engaged audience.
Okay, I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
There's definitely some appeal here.
There are advantages for sure, but naturally there are potential downsides too.
Like what?
Well, for one, it can be tough to stand out in such a crowded market.
Yeah, everyone's selling something online these days.
Right, competition is fierce.
So how do you break through all the noise?
That's the question, isn't it? Taijaun thinks the answer is finding a niche and dominating it.
Okay.
But is that really enough?
It's a good start.
It is.
But not a guarantee of success.
Right. There are so many other factors to consider.
Like what?
The quality of your product, your marketing, how well you connect with your audience. It's not as simple as Taijaun makes it sound.
It sounds like there's a lot more to it than just posting a few memes and hoping for the best.
There is, and I think that's a crucial takeaway from all of this.
What do you mean?
It's easy to get swept up in the excitement of these online success stories.
Oh, yeah, totally.
We see people making tons of money on Instagram.
Yeah.
And we think, hey, I can do that too.
Right.
But it's rarely that easy.
Right.
And I think Taijaun's presentation, while entertaining, kind of glosses over some of the harder parts.
So we need to approach it with a healthy dose of reality.
Absolutely. But at the same time, I think there's value in exploring these different ways of doing things.
Right. Like you're thinking outside the box. Yeah. Even if you're not trying to build a huge Instagram empire, there are good lessons to be learned.
Sure. Like what?
Well, he really emphasizes consistency.
Right.
That's huge.
Yeah. Whether you're creating content, building an audience, marketing a product.
Consistency is key.
He also talks about leveraging other people's skills.
Right. He loves outsourcing.
Which can be a game changer for people who are trying to do everything themselves.
Absolutely. And then there's the whole idea of finding a niche and becoming an expert in that area.
That applies to any business, really.
It does, online or offline.
It's something he clearly understands.
He does.
So even if we're not totally buying into his ethically steal thing, there's still some wisdom there.
For sure. That's what's great about these deep dives.
Right.
It's about taking the information, thinking critically about it, and figuring out what's relevant to you.
Exactly. Sometimes the best insights come from unexpected places.
You got that right. But before we move on,
there's one more aspect of Taijaun's story I want to touch on.
Okay.
His personal journey.
Yeah.
He really leans into that rags to riches narrative.
He does, and it's very effective.
It is. Why do you think that is?
It's relatable.
Totally.
A lot of people feel stuck.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
They're working hard, but not getting anywhere.
It's that classic underdog story.
Yeah, we all love to root for the person who overcomes adversity.
Exactly. And it's especially compelling on social media.
Right.
Where we're bombarded with images of wealth and perfection.
So Taijaun's story provides a different perspective.
In a way, yes. He's saying, look, I started with nothing, and now I'm living the dream.
Right.
If I can do it, you can too.
It's a powerful message.
It is. But we got to be aware of the potential downsides of that kind of narrative.
Oh, yeah, like what?
Well, it can set unrealistic expectations.
Like the idea that anyone can become an Instagram millionaire overnight?
Exactly. And it can lead to too much focus on the outcome.
Okay.
Rather than the process.
So instead of building a sustainable business, people get caught up in chasing quick riches.
Exactly. And that can be a problem.
So how do we balance the inspiration of his story with the need for realism?
That's the big question, right?
Oh, what do you think?
I think it's about finding a balance. It's good to be inspired by success stories, but we got to remember there's no magic formula.
Right. Success takes work and dedication and some luck.
And even then, there are no guarantees.
So what does all this mean for our listeners?
Be inspired, but be realistic.
Don't buy into the hype.
Right.
But don't be afraid to dream big either.
Exactly. And the journey is just as important as the destination.
Well said. So what's the next step? What can our listeners do to act on all this information?
What would you recommend?
Do your research. Don't just take Taijaun's word for it.
There are tons of resources out there, online and offline.
About digital marketing, entrepreneurship.
Building a business on Instagram.
So go explore different approaches.
Find what works for you.
And don't be afraid to experiment.
Exactly. Try different things. See what your audience responds to.
Be willing to adapt.
And most importantly, don't give up.
Even if it's not always easy.
Right. It's about perseverance and dedication.
Believing in yourself.
Well said. So final thought. What can we leave our listeners with? Remember this. Instagram is just a tool.
A platform.
Yeah, a means to an end.
Right.
The real key to success is your ability to connect with people. Provide value, build relationships.
Focus on that.
And the rest will follow.
Wise words until next time.
Keep diving deep. It's funny, isn't it?
What's that?
How Taijaun's personal story kind of ties into his strategy. It's pretty clever, actually.
How so?
His whole thing is building these faceless niche pages, right?
Right. It's not about him. It's about the content.
Exactly. But he still weaves in this compelling story.
Right.
About going from rags to riches.
It's a good story.
It is, and it works.
Why do you think that is?
Well, people relate to it. You know, a lot of folks feel stuck. Working hard, but not seeing the results.
It's the classic underdog story.
Right. Everyone loves to root for the person who makes it against all odds.
And it's even more powerful in the world of social media.
Absolutely.
We're constantly seeing images of wealth and perfection.
So Taijaun's story offers something different.
Right. It's like he's saying, look, I was just a regular guy and I figured this out.
You can too.
That's a powerful message.
It is. But there's a potential downside to that.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
It can create unrealistic expectations.
Right.
Like anyone can become an Instagram millionaire overnight.
Just follow these simple steps.
Exactly. And it can also put too much emphasis on the outcome instead of the process.
So instead of building a sustainable business, people get caught up in chasing quick money.
Right. And that can be dangerous.
So how do we balance being inspired by his story with the need to be realistic?
That's the key, isn't it?
I think so. What do you think?
Find that balance. Be inspired, but don't forget to be realistic.
Right.
There's no magic formula.
Success takes work, dedication.
And a little bit of luck.
Even then, no guarantees.
Yeah.
Right? So what does this all mean for our listeners?
I think it comes down to this. Be inspired, but be realistic.
Don't buy into the hype, but don't be afraid to dream big.
Exactly. And remember, the journey is just as important as the destination.
Very well said so. What's next for our listeners?
What can they actually do?
Yeah.
Good question.
Well, I think step one is defining your goals.
All right.
What do you want to achieve with Instagram?
Makes sense.
Are you trying to build your personal brand, promote a business?
Yeah.
or just share your creativity with the world.
Once you know what you want,
yeah,
you can start to figure out how to get there.
And that strategy might involve some of the stuff Taijaun talked about, picking a niche, creating content monetization.
It's important to remember, though, there's no one right way to do this.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly. So experiment and adapt.
Find what works for you.
And be patient.
It takes time
to build a successful presence on Instagram.
It's not a get-rich-quick scheme.
No.
It's about making good content, connecting with people,
building real relationships,
and using Instagram as a tool to reach your goals.
Whatever those goals may be.
Well said. As we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away?
Dream big, but be realistic about the work involved.
Right.
There's no magic formula.
But with the right approach and a lot of hard work, amazing things can happen.
It's all about putting in the effort.
And believing in yourself.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Until next time.
Keep diving deep.